Welcome back to the Washington Reporter podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Wool. Ernie Veritimos is here. As always, Ernie, how's it going?
Well, I just got back from my afternoon walk. My neurotransmitters are firing. I'm good for about 2 hours. I'll be smarter for the next 2 hours.
Well, we're going to need it because we've got to expose, we've got to talk about, we've got to elucidate this scam. And it is a scam.
What scam is that, Jay?
This scam that is taking place in the mainstream media. It's not taking place on the border. It's taking place in the mainstream media. There's a crisis on the border. It's popped up all of a sudden. I think maybe everybody in Guatemala heard that the IG report was coming out and the North Korea summit was happening, and they all came up all of a sudden. Or maybe this is just a mainstream media creation. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to tell you things that you're not going to hear anywhere else, but you've got to stay tuned. Ernie, I mean, this has just been a total embarrassment. It's been a desperate, horrific travesty to watch the media invent this crisis, because this has been going on for 20 years at the border. This is nothing new. Keep in mind, nothing changed in the last week, except for the IG report and except for North Korea. Nothing changed, and yet they're launching into, I'm telling you, folks, Hitlerian grade propaganda. They are launching into
Jacob, the children are separated from the parents.
Yeah, exactly. They think maybe if Rachel Maddow summons some crocodile tears, that maybe if she summons some fake crocodile tears, people will relate to her. I'm telling you, though, you can give up now, mainstream media, because the only people that are believing this are the dumbest of the dumb, the dumbest lackeys that you've got out there. They're the only people believing it. And I think case in point, what demonstrates this, and I think what we should do on today's podcast is start with the CNN clip. We're going to start in Dimension B. We're going to start in the world of opposites, and then we're going to bring you back to reality. That's going to be the theme of this podcast, because it's the only way to do this. I thought about, how do I do this? Because we could talk about this for 4 hours. It would really take us a long time to expose this whole thing. We could go over hundreds of clips, but I think what really works best is if we go into the mother load here. We hit everybody with the hardest of hard propaganda, and then we go from there. So that's what we're going to do. Here is a clip from CNN just ahead. We're going to show it to you. Here it is.
At Nana D's Diner in Mesa, Arizona, you can find plenty of good food. What you won't find, especially among Trump fans, is sympathy for immigrant families separated at the border.
No, they're not immigrants. Immigrants are people that come here legally.
They are illegal aliens.
They're invaders.
Invaders, yes.
They're invaders. They are not immigrants. But let's continue. We're only 11 seconds in, and they're already lying.
These people that we have coming across the border illegally are breaking the rules. Oh, I have no feelings for them at all.
Despite the images of children.
Now watch this, folks. Listen carefully here. They are showing this is a still picture. It's not a video. It's a still picture. They're doing a pan effect across. This is Film School 101. And in the background, listen carefully, they're playing nursery crying baby sound effects of a nursery with babies crying. Listen, and let's go back 3 seconds. You got to hear this. This is unbelievable stuff.
Oh, I have no feelings for them at all.
Despite the images of children torn from their parents or the sounds of kids crying in a detention center, folks here back the president completely.
It's not about Mexicans. That's what everybody is so angry about. It's not. I don't care if you're from Canada. I don't care if you're from where. You just can't come into this state and reach. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain.
You think that people are living off of this state but not doing it legally?
Absolutely. And I think it's bull.
You hear a lot of anger and a lot of the president's own arguments, especially that many of the immigrants are actually,
again, not immigrants. And maybe you're hearing a lot of the president's own arguments because maybe he's right.
Criminals posing as parents.
Now, when you have a bad guy coming across, kidnapping a kid, and trying to come across. I don't buy that.
How many of these do you think could be bad guys?
I don't really know, but there's a lot of people being hurt by bad guys coming in this country. A lot of people.
Actually, that isn't true, but it is.
All right, we've got to stop it there. Actually, that isn't true. We know best here at CNN. There's no human traffickers on the southern border. That isn't true. Actually,
what about the 114,000 girls over the past 3 years that are now completely missing?
Right. 90,000 in 2013 alone. 90,000 in 2013 alone went missing. 90,000 in 2013 alone went missing. Under Obama. They just said, we don't know where they went. Now, this is not conspiracy theory. This is Time Magazine. This is Newsweek. This is New York Mag. This is Washington Post. Obama administration handed over 1,500 kids to human traffickers. Washington Post. Look it up. It's all there.
I don't know what else you call that. That is not handling the immigrant problem or the illegal immigrants. That is just plain evil. It is the doing nothing is worse than doing something.
Right. And so you see this continued scam, but people are not buying it, as we saw in that CNN piece.
It's worse than doing nothing. Just think about this. I'm sorry for interrupting, but not only are they doing nothing and allowing children to be sold into slavery in sex rings, but they're doing it so that they can bring in voters for themselves. That's all they care about. All they care about is votes, power. They could give two craps about the kids. If they cared at all, for the past 30 years, they would have done something. They would have passed some kind of legislation. And now all of a sudden, these past 2 weeks, it's now a huge issue. It's Trump. It's the concentration camps. Oh, this is Nazi America. It's just unbelievable. And that people are actually falling for this. I'm sorry. I had to interrupt. I just can't believe it.
I mean, here's the Washington Post. This is January 28th, 2016. The Obama administration failed to protect thousands of Central American children who flooded across the U.S. border since 2011. Again, listen to what they say. Flooded across. If you build a goddamn wall, nobody's flooding across. Doesn't happen. It's a dam. It's a wall. You can't flood across. Leaving them vulnerable to traffickers and to abuses at the hands of government-approved caretakers, the Senate investigation found. The Office of Refugee Resettlement, an agency within the Health and Human Services, placed tens of thousands of immigrant children with human traffickers, according to the bipartisan Senate report. This is the Washington Post. This is Bezos admitting it. Obama placed tens of thousands of kids with human traffickers, and CNN didn't give a damn.
We're going to say that again. Obama did it. Obama did it. Obama did it. Trump is fixing it.
You had tens of thousands of young kids placed with human traffickers by Obama who flooded across the border. This is the Washington Post.
Now Pizzagate is making a whole lot more sense now.
Oh, wow, you can't talk about that.
They need a supply. They needed their supply of kids to...
It is what it is, folks. We don't need to go into cryptic QAnon messages or, we don't need to unpack what the meaning of hot dogs is here versus pizza versus jacuzzis. We don't need to go into any of that because we've got a bipartisan Senate report right here from the Senate Committee on Investigations, which tells us that 90,000 minimum, they don't even know how many more in other periods. This is 90,000 minimum were placed with human traffickers by the Obama administration, never to be seen again. Never to be seen again, never to be tracked down. They said they don't have the records. Sorry, we just don't have the records. Just like Hillary's emails where she's talking about yoga. Give me a break. Does she look like she's ever done yoga in her life? I mean, come on. I mean, at least maybe she could have said I was talking about cooking or food or something. But yoga, come on, give me
I think
a
she
break.
said yogurt.
Yogurt, right? 33,000 yogurt emails. So this entire thing is a propaganda scam. I mean, when you have to show still images and then insert background audio, it's subliminal messaging. I mean, this is really scary, high level stuff. It's subliminal messaging. They insert noises of nurseries of babies crying in the background because everything else is failing. And they're forced to do that because nobody's buying this.
And then the meme of caged concentration camps. They keep on repeating that. Concentration camps. Concentration camps.
You know, they can't show us. You know, at least when Alex Jones talked about FEMA camps, he put his money where his mouth is. He went down and he visited them with a camera and he made videos and he showed them on national television with Jesse Ventura. You know, the other part of this is, you know, where were the crocodiles under Obama? Where were the crocodile tears under Obama? Nowhere to be found. There were none. Not even under.
They were getting everything that they needed. They were getting votes and they were getting kids for their pedophile rings.
Right. But here's the other angle here that I think is important. And you, again, speaking of not hearing crocodile tears, did you know that more Americans die in Mexico and have died in Mexico in the last 15 years than any other foreign country, including Afghanistan, including Iraq, including North Korea, including the Islamic State? I mean, people don't understand. Maybe people don't live on the border. I'm 100 miles from the Mexican border as I speak right now. By road, not as the crow flies. And Mexico's a third world hellhole. It's a shithole country, as Trump would say. Let's make no mistake about that. More Americans killed in Mexico than all other countries combined, in fact. The State Department says, than all other countries combined. It's more dangerous than Syria and Iraq. And yet we're saying, well, we don't need a wall. They're just our trading partners. I mean, the Democrats act like on the other side of the border, it's Norway. Or on the other side of the border, it's the UK. Or on the other side of the border, it's Denmark. No, folks. On the other side of the border, you've got a country that's more dangerous than Iraq and Syria and Afghanistan and Pakistan. That's what you've got. But there's no crocodile tears for the Americans killed over there. There was no crocodile tears for Sergeant Tamarisi when he made a wrong turn and was kidnapped by the Mexican authorities, and Obama didn't do anything to get him out. Took 120 days. He served out his full sentence. He came back half dead. He almost died. No crocodile tears for him. Because, of course, as Ernie alluded to here, or more than alluded to, said, this is a big show. This is a big scam. It's a big trick. And the only people that are fooled are the lowest of the low intelligence Democrats. I mean, you've got to have an 80 IQ or below to be fooled by this. You really do. I mean, who can be fooled? They think that, well, we're going to show them pictures of the crying babies, except we don't have any, so we're going to need to show pictures of other kids and then insert crying sound effects in the background. And then they're just going to believe us. They're going to say, oh, the children. Oh, no. You know, this is the oldest tactic. The oldest tactic in their playbook, Ernie, is use the children, whether it's gun control, whether it's immigration, whether it's the welfare state. You got to use the kids. It's the oldest trick in the book. You know, oh my God, President Trump, you can't cancel SNAP. You can't deliver food. The children, the children are going to starve. Oh no, the children. It's the oldest trick in the book. The Republicans hate children. That's the oldest trick in the Democrat talking points playbook.
Well, then they go the next level too by shouting people down. They feel that just by shouting you down and shaming you, somehow that proves that they're right.
Right. I think one of the great examples of this, and we don't need to play the clip because everybody's already seen it, was this week on Fox News when you've got this Zach Garpopoulos or whatever his name is. I don't care. He's a Hillary Clinton lackey, one of these, you know, beta male Hillary Clinton supporter, you know, staffers.
Soy boy.
Soy boy. Yeah. Well, he gets on and he says, just this week, they do the old Obama technique. Remember Obama, especially early on, he used to say, and when I was in Duluth, I met a young girl named Maria, and she told me her mother doesn't have enough food. Remember he would do that a lot. He'd say all these made up people that he met and he never met. Well, now they're going back to that. They're going back to the old playbook. So this Zach Gerpopoulos, whatever his name is, he gets on Fox News and he says, just this week, I heard a story about a 10-year-old with Down syndrome. And Corey Lewandowski says, womp womp, why do we need to take care of this kid? People don't know, it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to take care of a kid with Down syndrome. Why is this kid with Down syndrome all of a sudden our problem, our taxpayers' problem? I mean, I have as much sympathy as the next person, but it's not our problem.
Well, you got to admit that that was really bad timing on his part. He could have picked a better spot.
Well,
that was easy for them to just jump all over him.
But what became the show was not that, but it was the leftist reaction where he says, shame on you, on you, over and over and over again, and melts down and literally becomes the face of Trump derangement syndrome. I mean, really becomes the face of Trump derangement syndrome. That's what we saw. And so you've got these leftists where they think they can shame you. They think they can say, shame on you. Tisk, tisk, you're mean. It's the biggest myth in the book. They say, well, Democrats care about people. Republicans care about money. That's that's their talking point. But it's Republicans that care about people. It's Republicans that don't want our cities overrun by the third world. That don't want city after city overrun by third world people that ultimately turn it into a third world city, because it happens over and over and over again. And if you don't believe me, you need to move down to the southwest of the United States. I don't care where you go to California, go to Texas, go to Arizona, go to New Mexico. It doesn't matter.
Come down here. It was so obvious over the past week, they were doing nothing but just pounding Trump that he has to do something. He has to, all he can do it with just a wave of his finger, blah, blah. So he does it. And then they still complain.
No, they are so deranged. And this issue, among the dumb ones is triggering a type, among the ones that aren't in on the joke, because you have two groups. You have the mainstream media people where they know the facts. They know what the Flores settlement is. They understand it, but they're just stone cold liars, like Jake Tapper, like the info babes on CNN, like the rest of these people. They're just stone cold liars. But then you actually have the ones that aren't in on the joke. The retweeters, the bots, the trolls, the dumbasses. They don't actually understand how this works. And so these people actually believe this stuff, and they actually suffer from Trump derangement syndrome. And I like what Rush Limbaugh said earlier this week. He said, they're going to get someone killed. They are. I mean, if you look at these tweets, did you see the tweets from Peter Fonda yesterday? Peter Pedo Fonda? Pedo Fonda? Tweets?
I don't know if you noticed, but on his Twitter account, he refers to himself as Peter Henry Fonda. And there's a very good reason for that. Henry Fonda was considered a patriot, a universally respected human being and a true American. And Peter Fonda and his sister Jane were the polar opposites of their father.
Hanoi Jane and Peter Fonda.
So he puts the name Henry Fonda to engender at least from the older people that remember Henry Fonda, to give that that cover, I guess you could call it.
Well, you say the older people that remember Henry Fonda. I mean, most people don't remember Peter Fonda, for that matter. He hasn't had a movie that's been very popular.
Well, the last movie he had that was popular was what was the last one?
I mean, it's a long time ago now. So Pedo Fonda,
it was Easy Rider. That's what it was with Dennis Hopper, or we used to say Peter Fonda and Dennis Chopper.
Pedo Fonda, well, that's what I'm going to call him from now on. He tweets out, I want Barron Trump to be kidnapped and ripped from his mother's arm and put in a cage with pedophiles. I mean, folks, you can make fun of the Pizzagate people all you want. Just read the writing on the wall. You've got a Hollywood guy saying he hopes the president's son is kidnapped and raped by pedophiles in a cage.
Now he's got a new movie coming out, I think, under Sony Pictures. Are they going to cancel that movie?
No, I mean, they disagree.
What about Roseanne? I mean, she didn't say anything like that.
No. And is he going to be kicked off of Twitter? Not a chance. Not a chance. What? Is he going to be sued by the Southern Poverty Law Center for hate?
So wishing that a kid get ripped out and thrown into a cage with pedophiles and get raped, that's not enough to take you off of Twitter.
No. No, however, if you say I support a Muslim ban, that'll do it. You're gone.
Oh, of course. It
Right.
makes perfect sense.
Right. I mean, Laura Loomer, friend of the show, de-verified for who knows. But Pedofonda is allowed to say, let's go kidnap the president's son and put him in a cage with pedophiles and watch him get raped. And so these people are so deranged, and it's like they just don't get it. Week after week after week, they just don't get it. Whether it's Samantha Bee calling the president's daughter a feckless C word, or whether it's Pedofonda calling for the president's son to be kidnapped and raped, they just don't seem to get it. They don't seem to get that the more and more they call the president's daughter a C word, the more they call for the president's son to be raped, the more that they do this, the more that they're alienating the everyday people. And that's why in Mesa, Arizona, among people that are older, that maybe watch CNN, that might be inclined to believe this garbage, they can't believe it because they're so obvious. They're so overt. It's not going to work. So they keep this up. And I do think they're going to get someone killed. I think we're going to see a repeat of the Steve Scalise incident at the congressional baseball game. I think we're going to see it because there are people out there that are this stupid, like the DOJ staffer who led a group of communists into a Mexican restaurant and told Christian Nielsen, the DHS secretary, that she's not allowed to eat Mexican food until she provides mass amnesty to everyone. There are people that dumb. There are people that believe this garbage, and they're going to go out and somebody's going to get killed. Ernie, I mean, what do you think here? I think this is getting really dangerous.
Oh yeah, there's going to be another. What was that guy that shot Scalise? Hodgkins?
Hodgkins, yeah, James Hodgkins, I think.
Yeah, they've got an army of Hodgkins, believe me, and I wouldn't put it past them that they're actually triggering them or lining them up. That's the only, it's so weird that you're pushed into this kind of conspiratorial edge, because I'm not like that at all. But you watch these people, they are evil people, these Democrat politicians and all the enablers. They are about as evil as you could possibly imagine. I can't believe I'm saying this, but they are. They have no principles. They have zero principles. If they had principles, they could at least take a side or debate, but they don't want debate. They want everything their way. They want complete open borders. They want the destruction of this country.
So
what else could it possibly be?
No, they do. They do. Because what happens in countries that become majority IQ under 90? Does anybody know what happens? And you can say what you want, but the people coming across the border, you just look at the Pew surveys. They're overwhelmingly welfare dependent. Just look at Pew surveys. This is not my words. This is them. They're overwhelmingly welfare dependent to the tune of 75, 78% on some form of government assistance. They, generally speaking, have IQs in the 84, 85 range. That's about the average. I'm sure there's geniuses in there. I'm sure there's mental, invalids in there. I'm sure you've got both. But the average is like 84, 85. And what happens in countries where the demographics go that direction? Look around the world. I don't need to tell you. You get totalitarianism or you get a socialist hellhole. Take your pick. You get a Saddam Hussein or you get a Maduro.
Well, the majority of immigrants that are coming into all the European countries coming from, Eastern Africa have average IQs around 70.
Right. Which in the West is considered mentally retarded.
Yeah.
I mean, clinically mentally retarded, according to the DSM. I mean, so this is what you've got going on. The Democrats are cheering them on. They're saying, come on down, free stuff. The first thing you do, now let's get into these asylum seekers, because it's a joke. Okay, here's what happens. Families save up a ton of money, whether they be from Mexico, whether they be from Guatemala, and they pay what's called a coyote. Now, if you live in California or Texas or Arizona, you know what a coyote is. In fact, you may even know a coyote. If you live in a neighborhood that's got a lot of Hispanic folks, they market, they say your loved ones, they're still down there, they hand out business cards, they advertise in Mexican restaurants, in the Clipper magazines. I'm not joking. And what a coyote is it's a human trafficker. 80% of the women get raped. 60% of the men get raped. It's what happens. So they pay a coyote thousands of dollars a person. I mean, and that's like life savings down there. They're saving up for 10 or 15 years. Most of them get killed. A lot of them don't make it. They're dead down in the desert somewhere in Mexico. But the ones that do are coached on what to say when they get across the border. They tell them you have to tell them you're from Central America. Say Guatemala, say Honduras, say whatever. Tell them you're escaping political persecution. And then you will receive asylum. That's what they are told. And that's what happens. When they get asylum, which generally takes about 30 days, of which in the meantime, at least before, they were free to roam around. Most of the time, they wouldn't even come back to their hearing, but now they're forced to come back because they're held in custody. That's the catch and release. Doesn't exist anymore under Trump. And when they come back, they get a free cell phone. They get SNAP food stamps assistance. Their kids get to go to public schools. They get federal housing assistance. And when the kids get old enough for college, they get DREAM Act grants so they can go to college if they want to. And most of them work. Actually, that's one good thing to say. They actually do work. They, generally speaking, get jobs. They work as, whatever they do. Generally speaking, blue-collar type jobs, but they also get welfare on the side. They work under the table, generally speaking. This is what it is, folks. Of course we're generalizing, but you have to deal with the generalities when you're talking about tens of thousands of people. We can't go through case by case. And so it's a real disaster for the country. This is not genuine asylum. It's an abuse of our system. It's a total joke. I mean, you talk about the outrage last week was Jeff Sessions removed exemptions or asylum for domestic violence. Well, of course you don't get asylum for domestic violence. You don't need a new country if you're a victim of domestic violence. You need a new boyfriend.
Yeah.
Ernie, imagine if I went up to Canada and I said, I am an asylum seeker. You will give me residency and full welfare benefits because my girlfriend is verbally abusive. They would laugh at me. Then they'd probably kick my ass, and then they'd toss me back on the plane or the bus back. We are the only country in the world that is dumb enough to take these kind of excuses and with a straight face sit there and pretend like they're legitimate.
I would tell you what the Canadians would say. They would say, take off, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the expression.
That's exactly what they would say. That is exactly what they would say. So we've got the murder capital of the world right across the border. We've got people flooding in, in the words of the Washington Post, flooding in. And we're to blame for this, in a sense, but we're actually the bad guys, is the way that the left looks at this. You see, it's almost as if, imagine if you went out and you robbed a bank. You went to the bank, you held a gun to the teller's head, and you stole the money. And then the next day, the police came by because they had you on camera. They took you away, and your kids got taken away to CPS because you've got to go to jail. You're held on no bond because all the money you've got was ill-gotten. Okay. You're going to be separated from your children. Now, whose fault is that? Is it the kid's fault? No, it's not the kid's fault. Is it the bank's fault? Certainly not. It's your fault. We've got a similar situation here. We've got people pouring into our country. They're invading our country. They're not legitimate immigrants. They are not asylum seekers. They're here for free stuff. They're here for a better life in many cases because there is better stuff here. Roads, bridges, you name it. Everything.
Well, there's no doubt that there are some here for a better life and that their reasons are legitimate. But those people should be going to the actual border crossing, right? And the problem is that we can't tell who's legitimate and who isn't. I would venture to guess that a good majority of the ones that are bringing children over are dragging them there. They're not their kids.
Right. It is the majority. I can confirm. A lot of people don't know.
They've got a script, right? They give them a script. They go over there. They coach them, and that's what they do.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know. My mom works on human trafficking task force all the time with CPS. And yes, the majority of the kids are not the people's kids. In fact, in Mexico, when you've got drug addicts, they'll actually, this is frankly disgusting and maybe worthy of some Rachel Maddow crocodile tears. They'll actually sell their kids to coyotes for $500. And the coyotes, if for an extra fee, they'll supply you with a kid. That way, when you come across, you get let in no matter what. It's not a pretty situation. There are no pretty situations here. You're talking about enforcing a border.
Well, actually, I can think of a pretty situation. Once those kids do get over and cross, they put in these detention centers. They're probably spending the best times of their life in those detention centers. Oh, and I know that sounds crass to some of the Democrats, but it's. I bet you that's the absolute truth.
No, it is. And in fact, the Flores settlement, which has been upheld by the Supreme Court, Trump can't do anything about it. Neither can Congress. The only people that could get out of the Flores settlement are the two parties that entered into it. So there's no getting around this. The Flores settlement, by the way, which, the judge that did the Flores settlement, she's a Chinese immigrant. Did you know that? Do you know who appointed her? Barack Obama. The Flores settlement says the kids must be provided with food. They must be provided with beds and clothing. And they must be provided with recreation and schooling.
And medical care.
And medical care. In fact, the kids who come across the border are treated better than destitute children in the United States.
Certainly better than veterans.
Oh, certainly veterans. We don't like veterans. We can't give them recreation. We've got to give recreation to these kids. So, and one of the things that my mom has told me is that now they can't even find foster homes for kids that are American because the feds pay more to foster parents if they take these kids. And so they can't get regular American kids into foster homes that need to be into foster homes because these kids are flooding in and taking up the spots. So the kids are arguably, you make a good point, Ernie, living better than they've ever lived before. They've got recreation. They've got schooling. They've got nutritional food on their table. They've got very helpful staff. And I think that President Trump won on that issue because Melania went down there. CNN was forced to follow her. Reluctantly, they did. And she showed some of the most kind-hearted staffers in the world. By the way, 52% of them are Hispanic. So I'm pretty sure they're not Nazis or white supremacists, as they're saying on MSNBC.
Well, they're not only kind-hearted, but they're well-trained.
Right. Right. So you've got well-trained, kind-hearted, effective caretakers of these children. The children are in air-conditioned places. They're being treated better than ever. There are no cages. The only pictures of cages that have been able to be found are from the Obama years. By the way, CNN has sent reporter after reporter down there. Bill de Blasio has gone down there. And they can't find these damn cages anywhere. They can't show us just one regular live shot of the cages. They can only show us pictures from the Obama administration with pictures of kids with sound effects in the background of babies crying. That's all they can do because it turns out the kids are being treated very well. The kids are being treated exceptionally well. So it's a major scam. And why is a scam here? Well, because remember what happened about a week ago, folks. A peace deal with North Korea. Denuclearization with North Korea. Remember what happened exactly 1 week ago. The Horowitz report, the IG report, which tells us everything that we've been saying. Everything we've been saying on this show. Every Peter Strzok text message. Every Lisa Page text message that we've had. I mean, when did we start writing articles about that? 10 months ago?
Right. And so now that is heating up and it's getting to a fever pitch, they're bringing this issue to an incredible level. They have to. As a matter of fact, they want to bring it to a level that it has to completely drown out all of those successes.
Because the midterms are around the corner. And in fact, the Democrats don't believe what they say at face value, folks. They actually, and they don't want a solution. In fact, if there were total amnesty granted, they would be angry. They would hate it. Because you know what? People would have no reason to vote for them anymore.
No, because they thrive on victims. Without victims, they have absolutely no power.
Right. They want the issue. Because you know what would actually happen if you granted amnesty to all these people? Well, they'd go and get jobs, and some of them would stay on welfare, maybe. Maybe you could disqualify them from welfare in the amnesty deal because it would be a compromise. It would go two ways, right? If you get citizenship, no more welfare. Maybe you could tell them that. Maybe something like that. But the people wouldn't vote for Democrats anymore. The reason they vote for Democrats is because the Democrats are telling them, we'll give you amnesty. So if they got it, they'd have no incentive to vote for Democrats anymore. The issue would be taken off the table. So what Democrats want to do is keep this as an issue. They're not interested in solutions. They're interested in it being an issue and a talking point into the midterms. That's what they actually want here. You know, there's no greater proof of that than you look at what happened this week. President Trump signed an executive order. The executive order didn't end enforcement. It wasn't what the Democrats wanted. He didn't say, okay, you're all free to go. Bye-bye. We'll see you later. Hasta la vista. No, it didn't say that. What the executive order said is it said the parents and the children can stay together for longer than before. I think they extended it by up to 40 days instead of 20. But they're angry now. They said the executive order doesn't go far enough. We hereby condemn it. It's exactly what they asked for. And now they're angry at that because they have to keep this as an issue. They can't take it off the table. If they've made a law, if they passed a law that got rid of this as an issue, which they could do today, then it would take it off the table as an issue. You see, arguably, Republicans want amnesty more than Democrats do. I mean, Republicans in Congress, not Republican voters. Because Republican voters are backed by the agricultural lobby. They're backed by the manufacturing lobbies that want to hire these people. Okay? The Republicans actually want them to become workers and get into the system. They want amnesty, and that's not good. We're not a fan of that. But they want them because that's what their donors tell them they want. The Democrats, on the other hand, don't actually want amnesty. They want to pose for amnesty. They want to get it right to the line, but they don't want it. And there's no greater proof of that this week when they cancel votes. They've had votes to fix this, and they've canceled them over and over and over again. They say one thing, they go behind closed doors, they cancel the vote. They don't want this to happen. They don't want this issue to be taken off the table because it makes for headlines. It gets their base fired up because their base are the only people stupid enough to believe this. And that's what they need going into November because they're screwed in November. The latest generic polls show they have no lead. No lead. There is no lead for Democrats.
Wow.
Much less a blue wave.
With 5 months to go, that's the death knell.
It is. I mean, I'm not saying you don't have to get out there and vote, folks. You need to go and vote. Okay? Don't get me wrong. We're all going to go and vote in the midterms for Republicans, no matter what. We're going to get out there.
Well, the really weird thing about this, and I don't know why the Dems don't see this, is that the more they keep this up, the more there's going to be backlash. I think I get the feeling that they think that they have to turn it up, that they have to go into overdrive, and no longer can they turn it up to 10. They have to put that extra notch and go up to 11, right? And they think that that is going to be what puts them over the top. I mean, well, Chuck Woolery just said, Democrats shame others. Of course, they have no shame, so it's impossible to shame them. Good old Chuck. But
yeah, good old Chuck.
That's the thing. They really do have no shame. They have no principles, and they're out for creating victimhood and for doing whatever they can to create chaos. That's what they want. They feel that if they can create victims, then they feel they've won. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. Create victims and then offer some kind of weird solution, right? But right now, there's no place that they can go.
But the thing is with the Democrats, and I try to convince, because some people are not going to be immunized to the free stuff pitch. Some people are going to be lifelong failures. They're going to be lifelong losers. And so the Democrat pitch is always going to appeal to them. Mm-hmm. And what I try to tell these folks is I try to remind them that the Democrats have never actually delivered. I mean, they talk a big game about free college and free education and free this and free that, but nobody actually ever gets their stuff. Where is this stuff? Where are all these, Cadillacs driving around in Compton? Where are all the great universities built in the inner city? There are none. And so my pitch to those people is, they might tell you they're going to give you free stuff. I don't want them to give you free stuff, but they're actually not going to give you free stuff. They never really deliver. They do this big program. They spend a couple $2 billion. It benefits a couple of their, massive donors and lobbyists. But the money never makes it to the streets. Even the most preposterously wasteful helicopter money bills, like what Bernie Sanders has proposed with universal basic income, or what they're doing in Stockton, California, as we speak, where you get $500 just for showing up, just for breathing. Universal basic income. It fails. It doesn't work. And it doesn't make people rich. It doesn't incentivize people to work. It doesn't lift people out of poverty. It doesn't do anything for anybody other than get them votes and keep them in power. That is the only thing that it serves. It's the only thing it serves. I do think that we would be remiss, as we sort of head into the final part of the show, not to mention Charles Krauthammer has passed away. Our deepest condolences to him and his family. A long, long, long time Pulitzer Prize winner, Fox News star. Really sort of a major thought leader, I would say, in the conservative
Pillar of courage.
Pillar of courage. And he's passed away after a 3-week, period where he said, hey, it's going to be about 3 weeks. And I think it's been 2.5. So our deepest wishes to him and best wishes. But just thought we'd be remiss not to mention that. I just getting back to the meat of this here. What do you give this thing? Because they're getting better at pacing themselves, Ernie. They were able to keep the Parkland thing in the news for God knows how many months was it? 3 months? 2.5?
Yep. I don't know. I think that they've brought this over the top. They're overplaying their hand. If they keep this up, I just can't imagine that people can't see through this. Just can't imagine it.
Right. Well, I think what's going to
already I think there's backlash.
Well, and I think what's going to shape up here is I think that, what's going to happen is Trump's, you want me to predict it? Trump rolled out the Space Force. That got trending. I think he's going to do some new PR with that coming up shortly. The Space Force. And I think he's going to do another summit with Kim Jong-un, maybe at Mar-a-Lago. And he's going to turn it into a show like you wouldn't believe. He's going to golf with him. I think he should invite out some celebrities as well. I really do. And I think it's going to be great. And you know what Kim Jong-un should do? He should fly in Kim Jong-un, maybe on Air Force One, and make him load up 5 or 10 nukes while he's at it. The plane. Why not? And bring him out, roll him out, roll out the nukes and say, we got him. Here's a hydrogen bomb right here. Don't worry, it's not going to go off. That would be wonderful. I think that's the next move for Trump. I really do.
Yeah, so, I like the idea of inviting a bunch of athletes and
Tiger Woods, all these people he's friends with.
Kevin McHale.
Yep. That would be awesome. Do you think Kim Jong-un wants to meet Tiger Woods? I think so.
Well, he'd love to meet him. I'm sure being a basketball fan, he'd love to meet Kevin McHale too.
Hey, and by the way, I did get an update. Just a little factoid on Kim Jong-un, just so everyone knows. He does indeed speak English. I got that from some good sources.
Well, it was obvious. You saw them walking together and they were talking.
They were talking and laughing, so it's obvious. Yeah. He does. CNN kept acting like there was questions around that. He does speak English. And in fact, it was funny. The head of the Swiss school that Kim Jong-un went to was said, of course he speaks English. He graduated from our school. It's funny because Kim Jong-un is now a notable alumni from this school in Switzerland. And, of course, look, I don't think Kim Jong-un's a nice guy. I think he's a steely-eyed communist thug. But at the end of the day, just about any outcome is better than nuclear exchange, folks.
Well, look at the family that he grew up with. There's no doubt that, and he has been influenced by the West. Maybe he's just has one of those come to Jesus moments where he says, man, I can just keep on going down that road and in despair, or I can take the right-hand turn and basically be a world hero.
Right. It's total collapse. His country's in complete collapse. It's worse than Venezuela. You just don't see any pictures because they don't allow anybody in.
I'm not trying to be sympathetic to him or anything. I'm just saying that from my point of view, looking at him, he's got to look at it as a practicality.
Right. No, we're just wargaming here and saying it doesn't make him a good guy. It doesn't reconcile anything, but we can't worry about that. All we can do is worry about what's next.
And what's the end result?
What can we possibly do about what happened 20 years ago? We can't do anything about it. All we can do is try to take his nukes now and give him something in exchange, really. So that is what's coming. That's on the horizon. I think that we've set the table nicely here into next Monday when we're back. I hope that this can hold people over through the weekend because the attacks are going to keep coming. The propaganda is going to keep coming. The fake news is going to keep coming. But we've got a lot of real news coming as well. And of course, you can follow Ernie. Ernie, where should everybody follow you and your website. I mean, give everybody the real plug. That way they can bookmark it and keep up with what's going on.
Sure. Of course, everything's Trader of Futures, traderoffutures.com. You go to YouTube and it's Trader of Futures. Just look up Trader of Futures. And of course, on Twitter, where I still have my verification, my validation check mark on Twitter. I'm also a Trader of Futures there. But hearing that Laura lost hers, I'm a little worried.
Well, I think it's a matter of time before we're all liquidated, but hopefully we can, grow some grass while the sun shines. And of course, you can follow me at Jacob A. Wool and keep up with the podcast and everything else at thewashingtonreporter.com. Make sure to subscribe. Bring us one new fan if you can. And you can even donate at thewashingtonreporter.com/
Oh, go to iTunes and make sure that you leave a nice review. It would really help us.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, that's even bigger than donating. If you can leave a good review, that's always awesome. It pushes us up in the ratings. It helps us beat down the censorship and everything else. It helps us break through and get the truth out there. But folks, it's been a fantastic show. It's been great to be with you. And we will see you on Monday.